Welders rallied outside their workplace in Vaughan today to call for a fair deal. The union says they were locked out by their employer ahead of the holidays. Good evening. About 340 workers at Welded Tube of Canada were forced off the job on Christmas Eve.
The union says it is pushing for a 2% wage increase and calling for the bargaining to resume so they can get back to work. CTV's Siobhan Morris is outside the business in Vaughan, and she joins us now live with the latest. Siobhan?
Well, the workers we heard from today say this has been a really difficult time for them. No paycheck coming in over this critical Christmas period, but they are determined to stick it out to come up with a deal they say is fair. Steelworkers in solidarity outside Welded Tube of Canada in Vaughan. These union members make products to support the agricultural, automotive, and construction industries, until they were forced off the job on Christmas Eve.
You locked us out and you picked a fight with the wrong union.
It's been a trying time for 340 locked out families, some who've made a living here for generations.
I think there's a lot of disappointment. My son works here, my brother works here, my nephew, so it's been a family business since 1970.
Also frustration the company wouldn't put off a negotiation deadline until after the holidays.
We've got benefits on the table that have been increased. We've got some pension increase as well. The worst part that's here right now is the monetary aspect. Will you accept that deal that's currently on the table?
No! D'Souza feels the pay raise and signing bonus being offered fall short.
They believe that a 2% increase is a fair deal for the cost of living. And you know what? That's not factual.
Worried about what happens if the economy takes a bad turn or inflation rebounds.
When the employer was in trouble in the past, we helped them. We took 0% increases. And then now, what we're requesting is, you know what? A fair deal.
Welded Tube of Canada declined our request for an interview, a representative preferring to keep discussions around the negotiating table, a place they hope to get back to soon.
We want a fair deal. I think we're close and we can get it done, but we need them to come back to the table.
At this point, no new bargaining dates have been scheduled. Now, leadership says if they aren't able to come to a resolution by the end of the year, they are prepared to escalate and picket at other locations starting in January. Reporting live, I'm Siobhan Morris. And back to you.
Okay, thank you, Siobhan. Still to come on CTV News, Toronto-based charity Globalmedic has responded to dozens of disasters around the world this year. We'll have more on their efforts to help those in need a little later in the newscast.
Toronto police have made an arrest in an assault and robbery on Christmas Eve. Police say a suspect approached a woman in the area of Queen and University on Tuesday and choked her unprovoked. About an hour and a half later, police say the suspect was in a business in the Yonge and Wellesley area and threatened an employee with a hammer before stealing multiple items. 36-year-old Brian Johnson was arrested yesterday and faces charges of assault and robbery with a weapon.
In Durham Region, police are looking for 3 suspects after a set of arsons at a Pickering business earlier this year. Police released these images of the suspects today. They are accused of deliberately setting a fire at Bay Ridge's Market on Crossnoe Boulevard on 2 different occasions in May. It is believed the suspects poured a flammable substance on the floor and lit a fire before fleeing the area. No injuries were reported in either arson. Anyone with dashcam or surveillance footage of either incident is asked to contact police.
And staying in the Durham region, a crash between a tractor and an SUV caused traffic headaches in Ajax this morning. It happened just after 7:30 a.m. in the area of Taunton Road East and Squire Drive. Durham Regional Police did not provide specifics on who was injured in the collision, only saying the injuries appear to be minor. Roads in the area were closed for a few hours to clean up the roadway. The cause of the crash is still under investigation. And police are searching for these 2 men wanted for several bank card thefts across Durham region. It's believed the 2 suspects stole bank cards from elderly victims between March and July. Police say one suspect would distract a victim by saying they dropped cash on the ground. And during this interaction, the second suspect would steal their debit card and then drain the victim's accounts. Anyone with information is asked to contact police. Today marked the end of free Wi-Fi service on TTC subway platforms.
Ever since we introduced the 5G network in the station platforms, and in some of the tunnels in the downtown area in particular, we've seen a massive drop-off in the use of that free service. It was very unreliable. It's 11 or 12-year-old technology. It would have been very expensive to maintain it.
The transit agency also cited concerns about the network's performance and security. The TTC says it is still working with Rogers on the build-out of cell service on the subway, including tunnels. A pilot project offering Wi-Fi at bus bays and platforms is also being considered. And the city is implementing changes to improve crowd control at Union Station on New Year's Eve. This is what the station looked like as throngs of people made their way home from the midnight fireworks in the first hours of 2024. Riders hope to board subway trains and will have to enter through the Brookfield doors on Bay Street and may have to line up outside if the station becomes too crowded. The city is suggesting using St. Andrew, Osgoode, King and Queen stations instead. The TTC will be free all night on New Year's. And here's a live look at Nathan Phillips Square, all lit up there. Time now to take our first look at the forecast. Starting out with our satellite radar, we see there's a lot of cloud cover coming across Toronto area. Precipitation is staying far away from us, though, for a while. Current temperatures show low single digits across most of the province. And if we look ahead towards our current temperatures, 2 degrees at the Island Airport and at Pearson. Tonight, we'll have a low of 1 degree and cloud coverage, and there is precipitation on the way, but we will learn more about that in our main weather.
Okay, thanks, Pauline. Well, 2 of Canada's top federal ministers are in Florida for meetings with officials from the incoming Trump administration. Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc and Foreign Affairs Minister Mélanie Joly made the trip as President-elect Trump keeps up threats to impose a 25% tariff on Canadian goods when he takes office next month. Ottawa says the ministers were tasked with highlighting the negative impacts such a step would have on both countries. This follows last month's trip to Florida by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau for talks when Trump first issued his tariff threat.
There's a lot riding on finding out really what Donald Trump cares about. The possibility does exist that the 2 issues he's mentioning, fentanyl and the border, who knew that we were anywhere near the Mexican situation in that regard? Can we do anything on that to make him feel better? But is that enough? Will he ever be satisfied?
International relations expert Elliot Tepper says Canada is up against the blowback that Trump could get from states that support his demands. As a result, he argues Canada must deliver a message that is personally important to the president-elect.
And the meeting comes amid continued rhetoric from U.S. President-elect Donald Trump and his incoming administration poking at the thought of Canada becoming the 51st state.
Officials here at home have been pushing back against the claim, though some say critics could do more to rebuff the remarks. CTV's Beth McDonnell has been gathering local reaction and joins us now live. Beth.
We heard a lot of different opinions from skaters here today at Nathan Phillips Square about Trump's comments on Canada becoming the 51st state. Some people were speechless. They didn't know what to say. Others really feel these comments need to be brushed off and ignored. For skaters at Nathan Phillips Square, one mantra is to let it glide.
I think all of his strategy is a lot of hot air, frankly. And it's really just all leverage and pressure tactics, and talking about it is giving him the leverage he wants. So I'd rather not even talk about it, to be honest with you.
Because for many, even the mere thought of Canada becoming the 51st state is tough to comprehend. Still, it's a notion Canadians have been absorbing for weeks now as President-elect Donald Trump writes social media posts and talks about it on TV.
I think it's absolutely crazy. Like, Canada has its own individual identity, and I don't think we should be part of U.S.
For these Canadian medical students going to school in the U.S., the idea is far-fetched.
It's just, typical parroting by Trump, to try to incite fear in the citizens of Canada. It's not going to happen.
Canadians becoming Americans, that's something I can't really fathom right now.
With some pointing to politics at the core of the communication and not much more.
I think it should us to have for the negotiation to I don't know, get the power position. and yeah, we just have to kind of ignore that.
I think it's all talk, like usual. It's a lot of talk, but I guess we'll see how the Canadian politicians use it on their end.
This political watcher is in agreement.
We don't need to worry about what he puts on social media. We need to worry about what he does.
Trump's comments on the rink largely being brushed off.
I think we will stay a country for a while longer. So, yeah, I don't think it's going to happen.
It's silly. Yeah, he's silly. So, Canadian.
Even laughable.
It's more funny. I don't believe in it. I just think it's a sense of humor, to be honest.
He just doesn't understand Canadians, does he? No, he doesn't. Maybe we should bring him up for a skate lesson, and then we'll teach him what the 51st state is all about.
Not a state, a country called Canada. Many told me they are proud to be Canadian, far from ready to be American. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Natalie, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Well, after a chaotic end to the year on Parliament Hill, there was growing speculation over if and when the minority Liberal government might fall.
The Conservatives are now planning to try and achieve that goal in the coming weeks. CTV's Jeremy Sharon has the details.
The House has lost confidence. When MPs return to the House of Commons a month from now, Conservatives are hoping they'll face a confidence vote in short order.
This is an effort to bring this decision once and for all into the hands of the Canadian people by letting them have their say in a carbon tax election. We don't want Justin Trudeau to delay this with political maneuvering aimed at protecting his own political career.
In a letter today from the chair of the Public Accounts Committee, Conservative MP Jonathan Williamson announced the committee will meet January 7th to vote on a motion of non-confidence in the Liberal government, the first step in a procedural tool the official opposition is using to try and topple the government.
To force him to either face a confidence vote or go to the Governor-General and dissolve the House of Commons.
If the motion passes in committee, the Conservatives will push it to the House, where they believe it could be voted on as early as January 30th. But the Conservatives will need the support of other opposition parties to push this motion through. In the fall, 3 Conservative non-confidence motions failed, but after Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland's surprise resignation from Cabinet, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh signaled last week he'd be ready to bring down the government in the new year.
If he's actually serious about putting Canadians' needs first, he will support this at committee and support it coming to a vote the first week we get back in January.
The House of Commons is set to return on January 27th.
In the meantime, this latest move by the Conservatives leaves 2 big questions on the table. Will Jagmeet Singh follow through on his word? And will the Prime Minister try to prorogue government to avoid facing a non-confidence vote? Jeremy Sherrill, CTV News, Ottawa.
Indian officials say they are still awaiting a response from Ottawa regarding allegations of widespread trafficking of international students. This comes after Indian officials alleged they had uncovered evidence linking dozens of Canadian colleges to 2 entities in Mumbai who stand accused of ferrying international students across the Canada-U.S. border. India began investigating after a family was found frozen to death near the U.S. border in Manitoba in 2022. The allegations have not been tested in court, and the federal government has not commented.
A man accused of setting a woman on fire in New York City has been indicted on murder charges. 33-year-old Sebastian Zepeda faces 1 count of first-degree murder, 3 counts of second-degree murder, and 1 count of arson. U.S. immigration authorities say he's an undocumented immigrant from Guatemala who had previously been deported and returned illegally. On Sunday, prosecutors say he set the victim on fire with a lighter and used a shirt to fan the flames that engulfed her. The victim has not yet been publicly identified.
Officials in Gaza say at least 25 people are dead after Israeli strikes today, including 15 killed after a home was hit in the territory's north. A spokesperson for Gaza's civil defense says the house was destroyed in an area north of Gaza City where 40 members of 2 displaced families had been sheltering. He did not specify how the property was destroyed, and Israel's military has not commented. Meanwhile, the Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza says Israeli forces had raided the Kamal Adwan hospital, forcing patients and others to flee. Israel's military said it was acting in response to Hamas fighters, who it accuses of using the hospital as a stronghold. Meanwhile, Houthi rebels in Yemen say they fired a missile at Israel's main airport overnight outside Tel Aviv. The Iran-linked group claimed the projectile hit its target, but Israeli media reports say it was successfully brought down by air defenses. Flight arrivals were reportedly halted for about half an hour. The Houthis say they were acting in response to Israeli strikes on targets, including the airport in Yemen's capital. The group has been launching attacks on Israel, saying they're doing so in solidarity with Palestinians in Gaza.
The investigation into a deadly passenger plane crash in Kazakhstan is intensifying as survivors share their stories. From her hospital bed, one passenger says she felt 2 explosions mid-air while a flight attendant said he was hurt by an external blow that hurt his arm. At least 38 people were killed and more than 24 survived when the plane from Azerbaijan to Russia's Chechnya region diverted and crashed. U.S. officials have indicated they believe Russia may have brought down the plane using air defense systems. Analysts say it may have been mistaken for a Ukrainian drone. Russia has said it won't comment while investigations continue. And as Moscow keeps up its full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the U.S. says 1,000 North Korean troops have been killed or wounded in the last week on the front lines in Russia's Kursk region. A National Security Council spokesperson says Russia and North Korean military leaders are treating the troops as expendable and ordering them on hopeless assaults against Ukrainian defenses. The official added that U.S. President Joe Biden will likely approve another security assistance package for Ukraine in the coming days.
Preparations are officially underway for an election early next year in Germany.
Heute entschieden, den 20. Deutschen Bundestag aufzulösen.
Today, Germany's president dissolved parliament, paving the way for snap elections on February 23rd. The move follows the defeat of Chancellor Olaf Scholz in a non-confidence vote earlier this month after his coalition lost its majority. Polls suggest the center-right Christian Democrats will replace Scholz's Social Democrats at the top, but coalition talks will be necessary to form a government. And there was fury from government MPs in South Korea today as the opposition-controlled parliament impeached the country's acting president. The prime minister had been given the role temporarily after President Yoon Suk-yeol was impeached for briefly declaring martial law earlier this month. But the opposition said the PM was blocking judicial appointments to the court that will decide if Yoon's removal is final. South Korea's finance minister is now the acting president.
NASA has confirmed that its Parker solar probe survived the closest ever encounter with the sun. The probe flew within 6 million kilometers of the sun, skimming its outer atmosphere, the corona, on Christmas Eve. Today, scientists received a signal from the probe saying that it is safe and operating normally. The mission launched in 2018. It is aimed in part at learning why the corona is so much hotter than the surface of the sun.
We're talking about phenomenal temperatures. The surface temperature of the sun, what we call the photosphere, is only about 6,000 degrees Celsius, whereas the Parker probe, was moving through an area of about 1,000,000 degrees. How we get that steep rise in temperature, we've got theories, but we're still trying to understand the mechanisms, the details associated with that process, because that's a pretty phenomenal temperature change from the surface temperature. And of course, it's bound up with the magnetic fields of the sun, which are throwing out charged particles, what we call the solar wind, towards the Earth. They're responsible as well for flinging coronal mass ejections and creating geomagnetic storms. All of that stuff is happening in the corona, and we want to be able to better understand and perhaps even be able to predict when these storms are going to happen. And Parker is our best instrument for trying to get that detail.
The Parker probe is expected to be able to send data back from the Christmas Eve encounter by the end of January.
Back here in the city, sick youth from across the GTA gathered downtown today to distribute care packages to people in need. The 8th annual Downtown Seva initiative was put together by the Experience Siki organization and Sikh students associations across the GTA. High school and university students provided people experiencing homelessness with water, snacks, clothing, and other basic necessities.
There was a couple of us high school students at the time sitting around and thinking, how can we bring the community together? How can we spread warmth when it's really cold out? And there was high school SSAs across the Peel region. And so we thought, hey, let's all go to downtown Toronto. We'll take a bunch of care packages. And at that first year, it wasn't that many. but it's grown to over 200 care packages, 200 bags of food, and 200 volunteers.
10 teams of young people split up and went to different areas across the downtown core to distribute the care packages to people in need.
Local food banks are continuing to struggle with increased demand this holiday season. Reports indicate food bank usage across the country increased by 25% in 2024 as people struggled with the rising cost of living. Some food banks say they were forced to cut back on services while also trying to stretch donations further.
So I'll give some bad news and then I'll give some good news. So the bad news is it took 38 years to get to 1 million client visits, and then 2 years to get to 2 million, 1 year to get to 3 million. And this year, this calendar year, we'll be at 3.75 million. So that is the bad news. There's some good news. Since September, we've seen a reduction in the number of new people coming to the Daily Bread Food Bank. So normally we have been welcoming about 12,000 people who never used a food bank before coming in for the first time. And that number seems to have dipped below 10,000.
The Daily Bread Food Bank is currently hosting its holiday food drive.
It has been a busy 2024 for Globalmedic. The Toronto-based charity has responded to dozens of natural disasters around the world.
CTV's Mike Walker has more on the continued effort to assist those in need beyond our borders.
At Globalmedic, it's all hands on deck. The need to provide humanitarian aid across Canada and around the world is greater than before.
There's 361 million people in need of humanitarian assistance around the world. That's a massive number.
Today, a small army of volunteers are packing lentils, beans, peas, and rice that will be delivered to food banks across the country. At a hydroponic farming facility in Oakville, microgreens are growing in a bid to provide fresh produce to those experiencing food insecurity. Since launching in 2022, more than 7,800 pounds of microgreens have been distributed to food banks.
Every single week, we get a harvest, and it's microgreens. And the cool thing about a microgreen, it's 40 times the nutritional content of a full-grown thing.
From tackling food insecurity to hurricanes, wildfires, and wars, this year Globalmedic has provided aid in more than 20 operations internationally.
The fire skid, that's like a tank.
200 of these fire skids, equipped with specialized technology, have been deployed across the country, helping firefighters battle forest fires. 20 of these have been delivered to Bolivia, with more on the way amid the devastating wildfires that have swept across the Amazon.
Also, a lot of fire departments, both domestically in Canada and abroad, don't necessarily have additional funding to support with purchasing more equipment.
Globalmedic has also provided drones and training to help crews on the ground there pinpoint and access fires in remote areas.
Fire departments can reach the fires when they're still very small.
This warehouse in Mississauga was empty just a week ago, now full of skids of personal hygiene items, ready to be shipped around the world and also to local food banks, shelters, and support services.
Shampoo and, toothpaste and
items like children's medication that are often overlooked but are in dire need for communities experiencing poverty.
1 in 7 clients or patients that are going to our emergency rooms right now, they don't need to be there. Well, a lot of the patients that make up that 1 in 7 are actually kids with fevers because families simply can't afford stuff like children's Advil.
Since 2020, this program has distributed more than 2.66 million hygiene items across the country.
We're out in the community meeting people where they are, and we have pharmacists and community medics, giving this to mom and dad so they can give it to their kids.
Efforts like these expanding as the need for humanitarian aid only continues to grow. Mike Walker, CTV News.
I'm Pat Four, and coming up on Consumer Alert, stains can happen at any time of the year, but if you have a busy household with holiday guests, everything from gravy to chocolate to wine can make a mess. We speak with an expert on the best way to remove those stains. That story is just ahead.
If your home was extra busy over the holidays, there's a chance you may have some spills leading to stains, which hopefully will not become permanent.
The internet is full of laundry hacks, but some of that so-called helpful advice could do more harm than good. Here's Pat Foran at Consumer Alert.
Spills can happen in an instant, leaving a mess on a tablecloth, a carpet, or your favorite shirt. Consumer Reports separates fact from fiction with the best ways to handle some of the usual holiday stains. Susan Zymet loves to host during the holidays and doesn't let spills on her tablecloth ruin the party.
It's a little hard to stop and remove them. So I sort of hope that we can get them out later.
The best way to save your tablecloth from those buttery sauces, sticky desserts, and wine spills is to pre-treat stains. And the good news is you don't need a special product. Laundry detergent will work just fine. In Consumer Reports tests, Tide Ultra Plus Stain Release earned excellent pre-treating stain scores. When you're ready, toss it in the wash as usual, but make sure the stain is gone before putting it in the dryer.
The heat of a dryer can set the stain forever. So if after washing you still see the gravy, dab it with 3% strength hydrogen peroxide and line dry the item in the sun. The sun can actually bleach the remainder out.
When it comes to wine, blotting is key. For red wine, do it as soon as possible. Mix warm water and liquid dish detergent and work the soap into the stain. Then apply plenty of hydrogen peroxide and set the fabric in the sun for several hours. The sugars in white wine will cause an ugly brown stain over time. To prevent that, blot out the liquid, then blot it again with liquid detergent and warm water, then blot once more with a dry towel.
Another stain that responds to that detergent and warm water mixture is chocolate. If it's on your tablecloth or napkins, blot it and just get out as much of it as you can, then put them in the soak cycle of your washing machine before laundering.
And no matter what you've heard, never use anything other than a dedicated laundry detergent in your washing machine. That's especially true for vinegar, which can damage some machines' rubber seals and hoses. With these tips, your holiday memories won't fade, but the stains will. According to Consumer Reports, save money and don't bother buying fabric softener. It can leave a layer of residue on your fabrics, irritate sensitive skin, and reduce the absorption of your towels. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
We're taking a live look at the screen behind us of dozens of skaters out on the ice at Nathan Phillips Square this hour.
And were you there today?
I was not at the Nathan Phillips Square rink. I was at another outdoor rink, one of the city rinks, and it was just perfect. You know, it was like 1 or 2 degrees.
Yeah,
it was
nice
mild.
temperatures, but the ice is
were
there.
Loving it. So the thing is, I think the ice might get a bit mushy in the coming days, I dare say, because we're getting a lot of rain overnight, and it's going to continue through.
We've got some rain coming. We've got warm temperatures over the weekend, but it'll cool down again, so not to worry. Taking a look at our weather now, we've got our province-wide temperatures here. Single digits, 2s and 3s across most of the province. We've got a warm spot down in Windsor and a cold spot over by Ottawa. Looking at tonight's lows, we have 1 degree for Toronto, which is well above the expected seasonal low of -8. Across the province, we've got 2, 3, -1 over on the Peterborough side, -3 over at Kingston. For tomorrow, the highs, not too bad. 9 degrees for Toronto, 8, 9, 11 degrees down London Way and Niagara Falls, also well above seasonal. Our forecast radar, so you can see some of the precipitation that'll be coming in. Not too much for tomorrow, some early in the morning, then dissipating a bit. But Sunday, look at that. Lots of precipitation heading our way, probably through most of the whole day. And then things will start clearing up through Monday. And then our 7-day forecast, we've got warm temperatures over the weekend, 9 and 8. Things cooling down during the first part of the week, heading down to 0 probably around Thursday. A wet start to the new year with 2 degrees and a chance of either showers or flurries. But really nice temperatures for the start of 2025.
Okay. Thanks, Pauline. In sports, the Raptors were looking to avoid a 9th straight loss when they took on the Memphis Grizzlies last night.
Sends it to Kennard, looking for a post-up, and going over top, Scotty.
Memphis star and Toronto native Zach Edey played against his hometown team for the first time in his rookie season. He scored 21 points, tying for the team lead. The Grizzlies beat the Raptors 155-126. Meanwhile, Raptors head coach Darko Rajakovic was ejected from the game after running onto the court and yelling at the officials after a foul was not called. The Raptors will be back on the court Sunday to play the Atlanta Hawks.
The Maple Leafs return from their holiday break tonight, visiting the Detroit Red Wings.
Nylander, Mitch Marner directed it through, and they score. And it's Tavares again against the Jets, and it's 2-1.
The Leafs will be looking to get back in the winning column after losing their last 2 games. They're coming off a 5-2 loss to the Winnipeg Jets on Monday. Leafs will be back without captain Austin Matthews, who has been sidelined with an injury. Puck drop for tonight's game is set for 7 p.m.
Stacey, she's going to put on the speed. On a breakaway, Laura Stacey, she scores!
Meanwhile, the Toronto Scepters will be looking to snap a 4-game losing streak this evening. The team is coming off an overtime loss to Montreal on December 21st. They're set to take on the Boston Fleet at Coca-Cola Coliseum, and the game will get underway at 7 p.m.
Team Canada will be looking to continue their winning ways at the World Juniors, taking on Latvia tonight.
Bonk back with it. Tired Finn's on the ice. Here's McKenna, loose in front. Good stop, rebound, score!
17-year-old Gavin McKenna from Whitehorse, Yukon, scored Canada's first goal of the tournament in their opening game against Finland. The team added 3 more goals on their way to a 4-0 win. Puck drop for Canada's game tonight against Latvia is set for just after 7:30 p.m.
Olympic gold medalist Ethan Katzberg has been named the Male Athlete of the Year by the Canadian Press. Katzberg became Canada's first Olympic champion in the hammer throw at the Summer Games in Paris. He earned 17 of the 56 votes cast, narrowly beating Oklahoma City Thunder NBA player Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Edmonton Oilers captain Connor McDavid. The 22-year-old from Nanaimo, BC, dominated in the Olympic final with his first throw standing up as the winner.
Coming up on CTV News, video games are a fun hobby, but they can also help patients regain brain functions. How gaming is being used by medical clinics for rehab therapy when we return. As the year comes to a close, whooping cough is being reported in higher than usual numbers in parts of Canada. Health officials have reported 19,000 cases of pertussis across the country to date in 2024. That is far higher than the norm of up to 3,000 cases. Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, and Newfoundland and Labrador are seeing more cases of the infection than usual, and outbreaks or increases have been noted in Alberta, British Columbia, and Nunavut.
As health officials try to stop the spread of bird flu south of the border, they're sharing a worrisome new finding. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention analyzed genetic samples from a patient in Louisiana. They're considered the first severe human case of bird flu in the U.S. The samples show the virus likely mutated in the patient to become potentially more transmissible to humans. The CDC says the patient was infected by sick and dead birds, but the mutation wasn't present in those animals and apparently has not spread to anyone else.
What determines whether bird flu could become a pandemic is that ability to spread human to human. So far, that's not possible for this virus, but as it continues to mutate, and you're seeing this case in the United States, it seems like it's getting closer. So, of course, nobody knows if that will occur. The concern, of course, is that you're seeing all of these mutations accelerate now.
U.S. health officials said the finding underscores the importance of ongoing surveillance in both people and animals, adding that the general risk to the public remains low.
Meanwhile, a U.S.-based pet food company is recalling cat food sold in British Columbia, as well as 12 U.S. states. The recall comes after an indoor cat in Oregon died after eating raw food, which officials say carried bird flu. Northwest Naturals from Portland, Oregon, says it is recalling a batch of its 2-pound feline turkey recipe, raw frozen pet food. The recalls apply to products packaged with best before dates between May 21st, 2026 and June 23rd, 2026. Most people think of video games as a fun escape from reality, but they are also being used in therapy.
The technology is assisting people both physically and mentally in their recoveries. CTV's Kathy Lee has the details.
I can do it. Karl Swatsky is leveling up his gaming skills. But he's also doing something else more important.
Like the hand-eye coordination, I think it's helping kind of rebuild those connections to the brain.
Rehabilitation through gaming, a program Swatsky never thought he needed until a rare diagnosis in January where his body's immune system attacked his nervous system.
I was like full quadriplegic for a while there in the ICU. had to have the breathing tube and everything.
For patients like Sawatsky, adaptive gaming therapy has been a game changer, helping patients gain and regain cognitive and physical skills.
The Foothills Medical Center has offered video games in its rehab therapy program before, but what is new is the availability of this equipment that now makes video gaming more accessible to patients.
If a patient has hemiparesis of one side, we can adapt a regular controller so that it's just one-handed. We can change the color settings if they're having cognitive impairments.
The adaptive gaming system is expensive. That's where Makers Making Change comes in.
We'll work with the center to either get them a grant to purchase all this gaming gear, or if we have grant funding at the time, we'll give it to them. And then I do all of the training.
This is awesome.
2 months into the program, Sawatsky is seeing results.
A lot of function has been coming back in my hands. I've gone from being able to barely sit on my own to now we're starting to actually walk using a walker.
And it's helped him not just physically, but gaming is an escape.
It's just nice to have something a little more, kind of more normal in a way.
Sawatsky will be discharged next month, but his game plan for recovery continues well beyond that. Kathy Lee, CTV News, Calgary.
Dining under the stars during cold weather months just got a little warmer. We'll take you to a Durham Region Golf Club that is putting a new spin on outdoor picnics. That's still ahead.
We believe that a 2% increase is a fair deal for the cost of living. And you know what? That's not factual.
Updating our top stories now, welders and their supporters rallied in Vaughan today to call for a fair deal after they were forced off the job. The union says 340 members were locked out by Welded Tube of Canada on Christmas Eve. The employer told CTV News they prefer to keep discussions at the negotiating table, where they hope to soon return.
We've seen a massive drop-off in the use of that free service. It was very unreliable.
Today marked the end of the line for free Wi-Fi service on TTC subway platforms. With cell service increasingly available, officials said they'd wind down the T-Connect network, citing declining usage, security concerns, and increasing costs.
It's a lot of talk, but I guess we'll see how the Canadian politicians use it on their end.
And as U.S. President-elect Donald Trump keeps up verbal attacks on Canada, political analysts and residents say they are watching to see how officials in this country respond. Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc and Foreign Affairs Minister Mélanie Joly were in Florida today to make Ottawa's case against Trump's threat of 25% tariffs when he takes office.
The company behind ChatGPT has announced plans for a corporate makeover. OpenAI recently announced that it would be transitioning from a primarily nonprofit to a for-profit company. In a blog post this week, it announced that it will be turning into a public benefit corporation. That's a type of for-profit company that also aims to have some positive impact on society in some way. OpenAI says its new structure aims to make a more investor-friendly corporation while maintaining a mission of funding a related charity.
Many Canadians head down to Florida to escape the winter chill, but those who own condos there will soon be paying more in monthly fees. The higher costs are a result of a law passed in the aftermath of the collapse of a condominium building that killed 98 people in June of 2021. The new regulations require condo associations to have enough money in reserve to cover major repairs and to conduct a survey of their reserves every 10 years.
A U.S. federal judge is allowing the woman accusing Jay-Z and Sean Diddy Combs of rape to proceed with her lawsuit anonymously. It comes after Jay-Z was added to the lawsuit that accused Combs of rape. Jay-Z's lawyer in turn filed a motion to dismiss the lawsuit unless the accused revealed her identity, a motion the judge has now denied. Jay-Z has strongly denied the accusations, as has Combs in this case. The rapper remains in jail in New York on federal sex trafficking charges.
As we head into the weekend, several movies are vying for #1 at the box office.
We have come to rule without mercy.
Deadline reports Mufasa: The Lion King is going into the weekend with the strongest sales from the last few days. It will hope to hold on to that lead as Sonic the Hedgehog 3 hopes to claim #1 for the second time in a row. They will be facing off against newer releases like Nosferatu and A Complete Unknown.
It's a warning.
And if you've been counting down the days to the next Batman movie, you'll have to wait a few more years. The sequel to Matt Reeves' The Batman was most recently slated to debut in October 2026. Today, Warner Brothers announced it'll be pushed back to October 2027.
Eating outside in the winter is now a lot warmer at an Ajax golf club.
The Deer Creek Golf Club has traded in the clubhouse for 6 domes so families can cozy up for a meal under the stars. CTV's Carol Charles has the details.
Imagine enjoying a meal outdoors under the stars.
This is such a fun thing to do. Isn't it? Yeah.
The 6 garden domes are a new addition to the Deer Creek property.
It's amazing. Love it. First time. Recommend it for anybody who's in the Durham region and looking for a fun experience, especially with friends.
They offer a cozy, intimate setting for families, couples, and friends. Each of the domes is named after a course at Deer Creek. The Lilly family are first-time guests.
It's cool. You get couches and warm blankets and stuff. Yeah, there's a few games inside the building. And they don't really take long to serve the food, and there's lots of lights, so it's nice when it's dark.
All domes come equipped with a heater and heated blankets for those chilly nights.
They are good and perfect for snuggling under.
Have some cilantro going, and you have...
An evening out wouldn't be complete without a meal. The $50 experience gets you an alcoholic drink option, as well as a main course. There's an alternate menu if the experience menu doesn't have what you want.
There's a DIY guacamole, there's antipasto, there's a mezza platter, and there's a lot of unique things, but also some classics like chicken wings and chicken fingers. We need a little bit of a diverse menu.
So yummy, thank you.
The only thing needed to cap off the evening...
The only thing I will say it is missing is snow. It just would look gorgeous with some snow.
But there is plenty of holiday spirit to warm the heart. The concept was a popular one during the pandemic, and staff feel it's a great way to invite families out for an enjoyable evening during the winter season. The dining domes will be open until mid-March of next year. If you want to make a reservation, you can log on to mydeercreek.com. Carol Charles, CTV News.
Well, it is an iconic part of Montreal's skyline, and now the cross atop Mount Royal is celebrating its 100th birthday.
The structure was first lit up in December of 1924 and has become a landmark in the city. CTV's Denise Roberts has more on the history of the cross and what may be in store for the future.
Even on a cold winter's day, many trudge up Mount Royal to see the cross. At 33 meters high and 10 meters wide, it makes an impression for those seeing it for the first time.
Well, it's magnificent, it's huge, and I think it would be better at night. I'm sorry we're not seeing it lit up in the dark.
It's my first time in Montreal, and it's really beautiful.
For 100 years, it's been lighting up the night sky and has become an iconic fixture of the city landscape, according to Heritage Montreal's Dinu Bumbaroo.
It is part of the picture because it's a very visible thing, but of course, over the years, its presence has had different meanings.
The metal structure isn't the first cross to stand here. Paul de Champmedy de Maisonneuve put up a wooden cross in 1643 when the city was spared from a flood. While its roots are Catholic, it was the French nationalist group, the Société Saint-Jean-Baptiste, that launched a fundraising campaign to build what we see today.
It's actually a donation that were collected by the school children in Montreal that paid for the cross. And it's the Dominion Bridge that built it.
Over the years, it's been the site of protests, and some have questioned whether a religious symbol has its place in a secular society. But for those who use the park, the cross transcends religion.
It's an icon, so you don't want to remove Jacques Cartier.
It's part of the history of Montreal, and it's strongly linked to the root of what Montreal is. Ville-Marie is, kind of really related to the impact that Catholicism had on the extension of Montreal.
And Bumbaroo says it will have a role in the future too, as long as it's cared for.
Well, it will have to depend on the steel itself and the restorative care that is given to it. It's like the bridges, and the infrastructure of that nature.
A symbol of Montreal that continues to stand. Denise Roberts, CTV News.
And once more, here's another live look at the city this evening. Before we go, we'll take a final look at the forecast. So once again, that is that big patch of precipitation. Not going to affect us too much today or early tomorrow, but it will over Sunday. Current temperatures show that it's low single digits across the province mostly, a cool spot over Ottawa Way. And then we're looking at our 7-day forecast. Warm, really warm over the weekend with a lot of rain on Sunday, then tapering off through Monday. New Year's Eve, we will have warm temperatures, a chance of flurries or rain. And then the first day of 2025, 2 degrees and a chance of flurries or showers, warming up a little bit on Sunday, sunshine anyway on Sunday, temperatures dipping down to 0. And then for Friday, well, it looks like we'll have -3, which is closer to seasonal, but we shall see what comes during the week.
Well, that's it for us. Be sure to join us tonight at 11 for CTV National News with Heather Butts, followed by our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For all of us here at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a good night.
Take care.